we are with
Brian Turnay
from Powertap or Cirrus, and talking a little bit about power and different ways that you can obtain power on your bike, sort of the benefits and a little bit more that way. So, Brian, first of all, fun to ride with you this week.
Yeah, this was great.
Middle of
early January.
We're just coming back from Velocis camp in Fredericksburg.
Clearly, I got a lot of sun while I was here.
Not too much. And I guess I should start out with like a big thank you for Powertap for saving my butt.
Right? Yeah.
I came down with a bike, as I was telling Brian. I love to ride different powers on different bikes, and we love our Powertap pedals. But I made the mistake of not bringing them, and brought another power down here, and obviously wasn't as reliable as Powertap power. And was sort of SOL until Brian saved my butt, so thank you.
Yeah. Always bring some spare wheels with me to camps like this, and happy to loan them out so people can see what it's like, and it came in really handy for 4 days of riding, so 2 days of riding.
Yeah. So I've actually never ridden, well, I shouldn't say that. I've never ridden one of the newer hubs.
Sure.
I've, like in the olden days when we had all kinds of different things, so it was really fun to see that power.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So Powertap's been around for about 20 years. So we have hubs that go back to fully wired units that you had to have a little shark fin within a few millimeters of the hub, and then that wire ran up all the way to the down tube into a computer, into our Gen 2, which went wireless, and now our Gen 3 hubs, which are wireless and T-Plus, like Bluetooth, so you can use them indoors, training with the Zwift app, things like that.
Very cool. So you guys have definitely been a pioneer in the sport for us, for us athletes.
Yeah, for a long time. Lots of professional athletes have been on for a long time, and plenty of amateurs as well.
Okay. So now you offer power in 3 different ways. Is that correct?
Right. 3 different locations on the bike. We're the only company that has that many spots, and really has that large portfolio. The idea being that there's not a perfect spot for everybody. So obviously we thought the hub was a really good starting point. It represents true power to the ground. So if you have a dirty chain, you're losing watts. If you have a bad bike fit, you're losing watts. If you have a flexi frame, you're even losing watts there. The hub doesn't see any of that. It just sees the power going to the ground. So
okay, so let me question you on that. So when you say that you're losing power, that means that if I had pedals on, I would see a different reading than the hub.
Correct. So, different choices for different people with different needs.
Okay.
So if you want just a pure scientific, super reliable, been doing it for 20 years power meter, and you don't care about portability per se between different bike disciplines, hub is a great choice. You build it into a wheel, and if you want to move it from bike to bike, you just move that wheel with you.
Okay, so how does that work? Do I decide what wheel, or do I talk to you guys about it, or how do I get that on the wheel that I want?
Sure. So one of 2 ways. We do have fully built wheels on the website at powertap.com. NV wheels and a house brand of carbon clinchers called Amp wheels. And the third choice is alloys. So simple, inexpensive alloy trainer wheels from DT Swiss.
Okay.
The second way that you can get that hub is just purchase the hub, either through your local bike shop or through a wheel builder, and ask them what is the best wheel.
Okay.
What disciplines do you race? What kind of riding are you going to do? How many other wheels do you have? Is it going to be the full-time all conditions? And they can help you make that choice. Or if you have a dream wheel set, I really, really want brand X, ask them to build it up for you.
So you can build it in any wheel that I can think of, if I want a Bontrager or Zip or anything like that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
We have hole counts from 20 to 32, and that covers pretty much everything, to exotic paired spokes from Rolf Prima, which are just 20 spokes in the back, all the way up to, ultra expensive rims from Mavic and Zip, and V-Head.
Can I ask you what are your favorite kind of wheels? Are you allowed to say that?
So right now, I have, and I
bet you have more than one set of wheels.
So that's the thing. So I have lots of sets of wheels. My go-to set of wheels for the last 2 seasons is actually a mismatched wheel set.
Really?
So I had an MV67 wheel set, their old generation,
Okay.
and then their current NV45 wheel set.
Okay. Now, is that 60 millimeters, 70? I don't know how big it is.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So their NV always does a little shallower and a little wider in the front wheel, and then
Okay.
taller and narrower in the back.
Okay. What do you
And
like about that wheel set?
So what I like is stability. So I can
Okay.
get a really deep wheel set without getting pushed around in the wind on the front.
Okay.
And then I also get the benefit in the back of still having that big, super deep carbon. So what I ended up doing after a crash was putting the rear of the 4.5 on the front, rebuilt that wheel with the front hub,
Okay.
and then still had the 0.7 on the back. So I have a Frankenstein wheel set that's an NV57, which has been perfect for me. I just love it. Riding around Wisconsin, moderate hills, I don't have to worry about super lightweight climbing, things like that.
Right.
So I can go deep wheels all the time and just soak up aero benefit.
And once you get used to riding nice wheels, it's just right.
It's hard to go back.
Like the old days of putting them up in the garage just doesn't work anymore.
No.
Okay, so that's the first option. Is
Yep.
that that's probably the most accurate if you're like an absolute nibby kind of numbers person?
So accurate.
Accurate. I'm sorry.
So I would say it's the most accurate system because it sees drivetrain loss.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that means the pedals are less accurate or that the chainring's less accurate, but as a system, you're incorporating your chain and your gearing into it.
Okay.
So if you have a really old stretch chain, you'll see the inefficiency affecting power. So you will see just the power going to the ground, which I think is important, and I like that. So for consistency's sake, I generally ride hubs, even from different wheel sets, all season long, all disciplines. That's my go-to.
Okay.
The next option would be pedals. And the nice thing about that is the pedals see raw power coming out of your foot. Each side, it's 2 independent power meters. That's a great option if you don't travel with your bike, but you travel a lot. So pack your pedals in your carry-on, land at the airport, pick up a bike that you borrow from a friend or a rental bike, and you have the same power meters in one part of the country that you do on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
That's a really good option. It's hard to duplicate that sort of.
Actually, on that note,
Yeah.
do you have to recalibrate? What's the calibration? I've heard about calibration going to the other side of the country. Like,
Yeah.
what is that?
So calibration, no matter what your head unit, if you have a Garmin, you calibrate. Some other head units, it's an auto zero. Basically, all you're doing is checking in with the power unit, saying, wake up the power meter, let it find its bearings.
Okay.
It will adjust for the temperature setting that it's in,
Okay.
and the installation angle that it's on your bike, and you're ready to ride.
Okay.
Every power meter from Powertap and everybody else, you need to do that before rides, just to make sure it knows how's it installed today, what's happening weather-wise.
Okay. And you know what? Can you tell us? I thought it was really interesting what you were telling me about the questions about calibration, and when you get these different calibration numbers, like what does that mean? Is there a good one, a bad one?
Sure.
Is my power meter good, bad?
Right, and so one of the things that early days of power meters, when there were only 3 brands that were measuring, we were communicating in terms of inch-pounds of torque. People are too weak to make horsepower, obviously, so we measure torque pounds, we translate it into watts when we do work. So originally the hub had a torque value that we're trying to target for our calibration number. Now it's 0, auto 0. If it's perfect, it's 0.
Okay.
But the range, it varies depending on the temperature of the day. Strain gauges can get, just like think of bridges and expansion joints on roadways. Things shrink and expand in the cold. So strain gauges do the same thing. So when you auto zero your hub, one day it might be -3, the next day it might be +15. That's fine.
Okay.
The hub will recorrect itself, but you have to give it a chance to.
Okay.
So use your head unit, say auto zero, the hub goes through its routine, and it's ready to ride.
How to do it.
Pedals, pretty much the same thing, but there's no specific number we're looking for. Because we don't have the same method for calculating angular velocity and torque input, the value is simply the direction the pedals are aiming on a certain day, whether they're leaning to the left or the right, what temperature they are, how long they've been ridden, what the fatigue life is. So those numbers can vary quite a bit.
Okay.
I've seen them in the hundreds, and as long as they keep giving good numbers, I wouldn't worry about any specific number. If you start seeing, random drifting in one direction over time, for our power meters or anybody else's, generally that's a sign that the unit's fatiguing.
Okay. What is the average life of a power meter?
That's a good question. So we have Powertaps that are on the road. I think I've seen a couple here at camp this week that are definitely above 10 years old.
That's pretty great.
Right. And it's
That
amazing.
people could not buy new toys over 10 years. That's like the amazing part.
That's the amazing part, I guess. Not that the hub lasts that long, but yeah, I mean the strain gauges will expand and contract, strain and relax for a very long time span. There's not enough to say that it's metal fatigue. Really, I think the things that are going to end up ending a power meter's life are upgrading, and you pass your old power meter on to somebody else, or just general small things. So there are serviceable parts on every bike component. So hubs and pedals, bearings will wear out. Maybe a year if you ride a lot. Tons, like 10,000 miles a year in all sorts of wet and terrible conditions, or 5, 7, 10 years.
Okay. Battery life. What's battery life on the pedals? First of all, I love your batteries. Love how you guys did that.
Yeah. So if you don't know, the pedals have just AAA batteries. If they die on the ride, you're never far away from a drugstore, Walgreens, or gas station. Just roll and get some, AAA lithiums, and
You're good to go.
Yeah. We get about 60 hours of battery life out of the pedals.
Okay.
I've been
60 hours of riding. Does it matter if you're riding hard, easy, or anything else?
No.
Just 60 hours of actual work.
Yeah. When the pedals are spinning, they're on.
Okay.
The more you strain them or use them, it doesn't matter. The pedal's always either on or off, or in a sleep state. But that's a short period of time. So 60 hours is I'd say the average. I haven't seen many sets that are less than that.
Okay.
Hubs are about 200 hours. It's a smaller battery. It does a lot less math inside of the hub, where the pedals are.
Because the pedals are,
Yeah, they're always like, am I up, am I down? Did I just spin forward? Did I just spin backwards? There's a lot of processing power that goes on. So the battery life is a little bit shorter, but you get a lot more data out.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. And then the third kind.
So the third kind is chain rings. So think of this as sort of the more traditional spot on the bike. SRM was the first in the marketplace. They did a spindle base, but people think of that first power meter being based right on the crank.
Right.
So our chain ring is it's the chain ring, it's not the crank. So it's two chain rings that are fused together with the spring gauges on the inside. So if you have a bike with a compatible crank set, you take off your old chain rings, bolt ours on, adds 25 grams to the whole system, and away you go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's the lightest?
That's definitely the lightest. So the upgrade from the regular chain rings to power meter is these hair-like follicle strain gauges and a simple 2032 coin cell battery and an electronics pod. Not much to the system. And the rest of the material was already there as a chain ring before, so you're not really adding much to it.
Okay. And are you SRAM, any
So yeah,
Shimano?
Yeah, cranksets. Pretty much any brand has one that's compatible, but not the newest, latest, greatest. So like SRAM Red, not the right crank arm pattern. The latest Durace, not the right crank arm pattern. That's the part that gets a little complicated. It's good to work with a shop on that, making sure everything's correct. What we're looking for is 5 arms that are symmetric, and their center diameter is 110 centimeters or millimeters. So 110 BCD is the name of the measurement.
So what percent of power meters do you sell with these three categories?
Historically, hubs are buying them far and away the most popular. You see them on the road everywhere. They've just been out there for so long.
Right.
In the last 2 years since we introduced the P1 pedals, they are probably outselling both of the other options, I would say 4 to
4 to 1. Well, that's pretty
Super
significant.
popular. Yeah, people. I mean, once you have that portability, and now that people have multiple bikes, you can have one set of power meters for all of your bikes, with the exception of maybe mountain biking.
The little thing's not going to quite work with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, different kind of clean.
And what's the price point difference for each 3-2?
So you're looking at about $999 for the pedals, about $600.
And is that for a single or a double?
That's for the double.
Okay.
And that's a good point. You can also get sort of like the entry-level version of the pedal is the P1S. It's left side only, so we don't measure both legs. We just double your left leg. And as long as you're a fairly balanced athlete, it's pretty good accuracy.
Okay.
You'll get better results with both of them.
Okay.
So that drops the price down to $600, which is the same price point as the hubs, and then chain rings are all the way down at $350.
Sweet.
Yeah.
350s.
That's a good price. Yeah.
But for triathletes who are 155s or 160s, you've got to go to the P1 pedals, correct?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
what I'd recommend. And that also helps if you're traveling for events. You don't have to worry too much about traveling your power meter in a box.
Right.
You can carry those with you in luggage, and you don't have to worry about losing them or something horrible happening inside the plane. If you're not
You have to
racing,
jump out of the plane.
yeah. And if you're not racing, very long distance, or if you're racing draft legal and you're renting bikes when you get there, or borrowing bikes, you can bring your power meter and find your bike with you as you're getting ready to go and go to training camps like this. You can find bikes at the location and bring your power meter.
Probably what I should have done.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that's it.
Although Fredericksburg, Texas might be a little limited on rental options. I'm not sure.
Well, but if I,
Yeah.
yeah. So lesson learned for me, right?
Yeah.
I love my P1 pedals, by the way.
Excellent.
Then, lastly, if we could just jump to one more thing about, we can just, I know you guys have a wide range of trainers.
Yeah.
But I have Hammer, love it, recommend it to a lot of athletes. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
So one of our other companies underneath, the camera reverses everything. So the Ceres is the parent company.
Did you see what shirt I had on?
Powertap.
Yeah.
Ceres is the parent company of Ceres racks for your car, Powertap, and then Cyclops is our trainer brand. So the Cyclops hammer is $11.99. It is a smart trainer, so fully electronically controllable, but direct drive, which means that there's no more clamping your bike frame into the frame of a trainer and then putting your wheel onto a roller. It is putting your bike into the trainer, and it's your chain on the trainer's cassette. So your rear wheel is out of the picture. There's no losses due to rolling resistance. It's a much more accurate way to measure power. It's a much quicker way to deliver it to. So if you're riding on Zwift or Trainer Road or any of the other apps,
Perf Pro on my
Perf Pro.
athletes. Sorry.
There you go. You do those custom workouts.
That's right.
Yeah.
Load them, download them.
Follow them, don't cheat.
No
And as soon as you
cheating.
load those, if you're going endurance, tempo, threshold, the hammer makes you do it. There's no cheating.
So, you know what, I'm sure you probably know this, but a lot of our athletes had Wahoo kickers.
Sure.
And, that delay.
Right.
That delay was so much that I think 3, maybe 4 of them got rid of their kickers, sold them on Craigslist if you want one.
Good deals.
Yeah. And got kickers. And everybody's been really happy that they don't have that delay
Right.
that a lot of the other trainers have.
Yeah.
So that's been really positive.
Yeah. And part of the secret sauce is we have a massive 20-pound flywheel inside there.
Oh, it feels so sweet.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like almost like butter. Like, I don't want to say better than road, but
No, I mean it's.
yeah,
But
the
imagine the whole weight of your bike inside of the trainer. So it's simulating, fairly heavy, all your water bottles on bike rolling down the road with one flywheel.
I just love I love copy trainers have been sort of the standard in the industry, as we absolutely say, but the feel of being on a copy trainer versus being on a hammer is significantly different, right? And
not to mention the volume.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, the hammer is so much quieter because there's no tire rolling on the roller. So it's
We
a quieter
did-
environment.
Andrew, we did sound testing
Yeah.
on Hammer, and it actually was what you said it was. We didn't believe it.
Perfect. It's a funny thing. We could probably have gone to UW-Madison and gone into a sound lab and done something very high tech. Our headquarters is an old farmhouse in Madison, Wisconsin, with a warehouse where all the manufacturing units are in back. And our baseline test for decibel testing of the Hammer is the old cellar underneath the offices. So whenever we tested a new belt, a new casing design, we're trying to hit that decibel target, one of our interns had to ride for an hour in the basement. True story. Sorry, Kyle.
Well, it obviously worked because when the sound came out, there was a lot of us that were like,
Couldn't be.
Yeah, I don't think so. And then we got an app on our phone, and we're like, oh yeah, wow, that really works.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
good job.
We were helping Kyle out.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, and it's also great to support a local company for Chicagoland athletes, and you guys have been great about keeping things local and really sourcing in the U.S. as possible.
Yeah. And whenever we can.
Whenever you can.
So a lot of those stampings on the Hammer come from Iowa. All of our plastics are in Wisconsin. I was even saying yesterday, all of our electronic boards we have made in Whitewater, Wisconsin, at a biotech manufacturer. So when they're not making, very, very sterile, precise electronics for saving people's lives, they're making people's lives better.
That's right, and saving people from getting to that point. Right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting you were saying that you guys make 74 hammers a day. Is that correct?
Yep. So we have 2 shifts working. Second shift works 4 days a week. First shift works 5. And in the trainer season, they work Saturdays also. So we make them as fast as we can.
Is there really trainer season? Trainer season should be already done.
This is true. It's getting to be that way.
It's not for me, but it should be.
But especially in larger cities.
Right.
If it takes you 45 minutes just to get to a point where you can start an outdoor interval, or warm up for 10 minutes, get it done, do your hard work, and then go to the country on the weekends. Yeah. Trainer season does stretch well into the summer.
Yeah.
Which is grand.
And then you guys have the whole line of trainers below that, right?
Right.
And,
yeah.
And you guys trainers have been a staple forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you go to Criterions or cyclocross races, you'll see Cyclops fluids in the parking lot for warm-ups, all over the place.
Yeah, I think I've had 12, I don't know how many years, and it's brand new.
Yeah.
So all your products are just rock solid.
So thank you.
Yeah. Love your stuff. So. Well, great. Well, thanks, Brian, for taking a little time.
No problem.
And love learning more and talking this stuff. And hope to get Brian down to do some with us.
Maybe.
Right? We love. Never can get enough. So thanks for taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody.
And thanks for watching. And we'll be in touch.